Okay, what I want to talk about for today is a bit of a complicated thing. Might take a while to explain it, but I'll do my best. I was talking to a student a couple of days ago, and we were talking about the criteria of the IELTS test for both writing and speaking. And she was asking me, why do I have to include all these different things in the essay? Why do I have to include all these different things in the speaking section? Why can't I just answer the question? Why don't we just assess grammar and vocabulary, etc.? Why do I have to, especially for the essay, we were talking about the cohesion and coherence and task achievement parts of the criteria. Now, as you probably know, we've got 4 criteria: grammatical range and accuracy, lexical resource, cohesion, coherence, and task achievement. So some common mistakes that people make for writing, but also for the speaking, they focus too much on grammar and vocab, and they don't focus on having a logical sequence of information of when they're writing, especially, but also in speaking. Is there a coherence, a logic in what you say? Do you sequence your ideas and information? So just to touch on the essay for the moment, we'll come back to the speaking in a while. So for A7, which is what most of my students need, they need a minimum of A7. They're usually stuck on 6.5. So they come to me, they send me some essays, and I can usually point out what the mistakes are. Now, all things being equal, if your grammar and vocab are reasonable, now, before we ask that, that's a point I should mention. If we consider the difference between the between the different examinations. So if we look at a 7 equivalent for the IELTS and we compare it to the TOEFL and the Cambridge exams, so to get a 6.5 to a 7 on the IELTS, you're looking 79.95 for TOEFL. That's roughly equivalent to the Cambridge Advanced English exam, which is C1. Now, the significance of this we'll see in a moment. So 7.5, so around about 7.5, around about 100. So most people taking the TOEFL, they need around about 100 or above. Most people taking the IELTS need 7.5, which is roughly, it's right, roughly C1 heading to C2. So heading from advanced to a proficiency. But for this purpose, we'll just look at C1. So that's the difference between the exams. So the scores that most people want for IELTS and TOEFL are roughly at C1, which is advanced. So, as you may know, this is all arranged according to the Common European Framework of Reference, CEFR. Now, there's a table, and if we take a look at this here, for the podcast, I'll put a link to the video where you can see the files, and for this video, I'll put the links to where you can download these. Also, so how the CEFR works, it's a series of can-do statements, essentially. If you look at the table, we've got A1 to C2. We're looking at C1. You've got your comprehension, speaking, writing, spoken production, spoken interaction, reading, etc. So for the writing, if we take a look at the writing, I can express myself in clear, well-structured text, expressing points of view at some length. Okay, so that's very similar to what the criteria for the writing task is asking for you to get a 7 for the writing. So while your grammar and vocab, if we go back to this again, where's the grammar and vocab, listening, reading, we'll take a look at that at the other table in a second. So express myself in clear, well-structured text, okay, and also these other things too. I can write an essay or report, passing on information or giving reasons in support of or against a particular point of view. So you can see for the essay to be B2 upper intermediate but C-like 1, you have to be able to do this and everything that comes below it also. So writing an essay, being able to, as it says, passing on information or giving reasons in support of or against a particular point of view. I can express myself in clear, well-structured text, expressing points of view at some length. So if you think about it, that's basically what the examiners are asking you to do for an essay. Again, grammar and vocab, we'll take a look at those in a second, but aside from that, if we look at the criteria table, the official British Council University of Cambridge, we look at the cohesion, coherence and task achievement. For this band score, we need to clear central topic, one main idea, we need a clear progression, we need a logical organisation of information and ideas, we need to present, extend and support the main ideas. Clear position throughout the response. Well, if we go back to the table, I can write a report passing on information or giving reasons in support of against a particular point of view. I can express myself in clear, well-structured. So this is basically why the essay is concerned about these things also, and not just about grammar and vocabulary. Why is it concerned with, you being able to, if we take a look at the speaking section, to present a clear, detailed description developing particular points. I can explain a viewpoint, giving the advantages and disadvantages of various options. So you can see in terms of the functional use of English, why the criteria includes these things: cohesion, coherence and task achievement. So for you to be writing at band 7 plus, or for the TOEFL 100 and above for the CAE, whether you get a pass with A, B or C, there's certain functions of English that you have to perform. So it's not just about the grammar and the vocabulary, although obviously they are important. For the speaking assessment too, if we take a look, you've got all the positive features. So pronunciation, that's like one thing, yes, the grammar. But if we look at this too, vocabulary resource to discuss a variety of topics, you have to paraphrase, some awareness of style and collocation, idiomatics, etc., a range of connective and discourse markers, speaks at length without noticeable effort or loss of coherence. Well, if we refer back to CEFR, I can explain the viewpoint on a topical issue. I can present clear, detailed descriptions on a wide range of subjects. Clear, detailed descriptions of complex subjects. So you can see it, how this matches. This is why the examiners want you to do or to show them certain things in order to get a particular score. So, as I keep saying, grammar and vocab are very important, of course, indeed so, but it's only half of the story. You have to be able to show them quite a lot more in terms of cohesion, coherence, task achievement for the writing, and for the speaking, again, fluency, coherence, and lexis, etc. So there's quite a lot of things there included. So this leads me back to the strategies that I try and get my students to use for both writing and speaking. So we'll look at the topic card, part 2 and part 3 of the speaking, and we'll look at writing task 2, the essay, and we'll try and tie in all these things, and you can see how that works. So if we take a look at this table, now this is the core inventory. So this is basically breaking the CEFR down from A1 to C1. Now, C like 1, as I said, this is 7 plus for the IELTS, 100 plus for the TOEFL, etc. So this is what we're aiming for. So what this inventory has done, now this was developed by a number of sources by an analysis of the language implied in the CEFR. Again, for the podcast, a video for a blog, I shall put links to where you can access these so you can see it. So what they've done, they've taken these series of can-do statements and they've broken it down. They've analysed the language implied by what the descriptors are describing. And they've analysed the content of various course books and CEFR schools. So they've looked at what people are teaching and what the course books contain. They've analysed that and they've said, okay, this is what the CEFR, this is what it breaks it down into. So we've got functions, grammar, discourse, vocab, and topics. Okay, so we'll start with the topics at first. So A1, the topics are pretty simple. It's work and jobs, leisure activities, hobbies, etc. But if you look at C1, it's arts, books, literature, film, media, news, lifestyles, and current affairs. Technical and legal language, obviously quite a complicated range of English. If we look at your vocabulary, for A1, basic verbs, food and drink, personal information. If you look at C1, you've got colloquial language or slang, formal, informal, idioms and collocations, etc. The discourse markers, these are the sign posts anyway, so because, as I was saying, in academic writing, moreover, therefore, it could be argued, etc. So you've got your linking devices, your logical markers, markers to structure and signpost, formal and informal speech. Now we'll refer back to the table in a second, but you should be able to see or hear now, if you are listening to a podcast, of how the sections are designed. Now, some people may imagine that the IELTS is just a random series of questions. Oh, let's just ask some questions and we'll guess their English. Well, of course not. The University of Cambridge, it tests all the different questions. It tests these, it puts them into practice, into exams. Before they're put into the mainstream, they're often tested in certain examination centres. So everything's designed to get you or elicit you or encourage you to use and to show that you can use certain vocab, grammar and functions of English. Now, if you look at the grammar, for example, for C1, mixed conditionals, modals, passive forms, phrasal verbs, wish, if only, oh, if only I'd done this, conditionals, inversions with negative adverbials, never have I been so insulted, etc. And of course, all the things that come before it. So, relative clauses, which, that, who, whom, whose, reported speech, he said that, he'd been going to, will be going to, expressing habits in the past, future perfect, I will have done, future perfect continuous, I will have been working, etc. Modals of deduction and speculation. And then if we look at the functions, now this is the interesting part. So if we just take a look at these, so B, B2 and C like 1, because, if you do this, you also have to be able to do these also. So they want you to be able to concede a point. So, in speaking, I can see how that might work. Well, okay, I don't, critiquing and reviewing constructively, defending a point of view persuasively, developing an argument systematically. Now, obviously, that's something that you are expected to do in the essay task. to develop or systematically develop an argument. You introduce your main idea, you explain it, you produce an example. If you look at this again, developing an argument. Now, for the speaking, describing experiences. So if we think of a topic card, describe something and explain, okay? Describing feelings and emotions, describing hopes and plans. So again, that's the topic card. We'll come to the strategy for that in a moment and explain why my strategy is better than responding to the cards. Expressing abstract ideas, expressing opinions, opinion, justification, and speculation. So this is basically section 3 of the speaking. You know, they ask you to compare, contrast, evaluate, speculate, hypothesize, etc. If we go back to C1, speculation, hypothesize about causes, consequences. So you can probably think back to some of the essay question tasks, the problems and solution, or causes and solution essays. So all of these things are there for a purpose, to get you to do certain things if you can perform certain functions. So grammar and vocab aside, for the grammar for the grammar and the vocabulary, you need to be able to talk about certain topics. Now, which is why I always tell people, you know, understand what the topics are, the common themes, education, health, transport, etc. Practice those. So, you know, if you look at this here, literature, media, news, lifestyles, etc., the different vocab you have to use. But if we look at the functions, you can see how this corresponds to part 2 and 3 of the speaking. Describe something, explain, and part 3 questions where you're asked to evaluate, speculate, express opinion in the past, future, etc. If we consider the writing, if we consider the structure, the organization of what you have to basically do in an essay, where you have to develop an argument, defend it, critique someone else's opinion, you know, obviously in the higher scoring essays, this is what you basically do. So you can see, I hope, how all these things feed in to how you get a high score in both writing and speaking. So I was talking to a student a couple of hours ago and one a couple of days ago, which was in part the inspiration for this video and podcast. We were talking about, so, you know, they both got 6.5, okay? Both got 6.5 for writing and speaking. And I was speaking to them. There's a couple of different things, minor grammar points, etc. And I saw the essay of one of the students. One's Polish and the other is Chinese. But what was interesting was that until we went through all this stuff and I told them it, they didn't. The main reason they didn't get above 6.5 was not that their English was bad as such, which it obviously it wasn't. You know, in general terms, that English is good, but they didn't understand what the examiners wanted. They didn't understand the criteria. They didn't understand what that broke down into in terms of what does the criteria, you know, how does the band score criteria translate? So how does the band score criteria for writing and speaking translate into the CEFR? I can do this and this and that. And how does that break down and translate into what exactly do you have to do? What do you have to use as a strategy to show them all these things which you have to show them in order to get a particular score? So it isn't about is your English good or bad. You know, can you answer? It's about, do you show them sufficient functional use of English? Do you show them a sufficient range of grammar, a sufficient range of vocabulary? Can you talk about a wide range of topics? Well, speak and write about, you know, a wide range of topics, grammar, vocab, to get the score that you need. I mean, you know, if we take a look at the criteria, once again, which is always a good idea. A wide range of vocab, a wide range of vocab, wide range of structure, we can see the key words here. It's all about range. Accuracy, obviously, important, but still they want a wide range of structures, a full range of structures, wide vocabulary resource, wide, vocabulary resource, wide resource, full flexibility. So it's not just, about can you speak or write in English, although obviously that's pretty important. It's, do you understand how this breaks down, what they want, what every band requires? Because the examiners, when they're assessing both your writing and speaking, they have a criteria table. They have a table, and they are looking at it and they're listening, reading to see if you give them what they want to give you a particular score. So in terms of strategy, now I'm not going to go on about this too much because it would take quite a while. I'll try and keep it short as possible. But if we consider this essay, this is pretty good. I would probably give this a 9, at least 8.5. If we just have a quick look, I'll break it down, then I'll show you the topic card for the speaking and part 3 of the speaking. And I hope that will explain things. So, the criteria was calling for one central idea, a clear position. So it's all about the functions, what does it say for functions again? For writing, where is it? I can express myself in clear, well-structured text, expressing points of view. I can write a detailed text, information, give reasons, So if we take a look at this essay here, in the coming years, experts believe that vehicles will be driven autonomously by computers. The main reason for this is this should be seen as a positive thing. So you've got a clear, you've got a clearly expressed opinion. You've got a good restatement of the topic. If we look at your paragraphs now, if you check out my blog site, I'll put the links there. You'll find lots of essay examples, and I've got lots of videos where I go into this in a lot of detail. So I don't want to say too much about it now. But we've got all these paragraphs here. We've got a clear example here. We've got a clear example, a paragraph. We've got one main idea. We've got an introduction of an idea, an explanation of an idea, a second sentence that explains it, a good clear example. That is pretty good. This is basically what the examiners are asking for. As I've said before, they want a clear introduction. This is a topic, sentence 1, this is what I think, sentence 2, sentence 3, this is the outline, the 2 main ideas. Paragraph 2 and 3, so you need 4 sentences. Sentence 1, introduce, 2, explain, maybe 3, explain, 4, a clear example. If you need to write a summary, you can include that too. So sentence 1, drinking beer is great. Sentence 2, the reason why drinking beer is great, every time I drink beer, I feel fantastic. For example, last night I was drinking beer and I felt pretty good. Therefore, it can be said that drinking beer is pretty good. Now, that's obviously a little bit crap, but that's a general idea. They want you to develop your ideas. It's the same for the speaking section. If we consider, I'll just get an empty sheet. So if we consider the speaking section now, for part 2, and I was talking about this again with a couple of students. So here's these are complete speaking tests from the Cambridge books. So okay, here's a topic card. Describe a time when you were asked to give your opinion in the questionnaire or survey. You should say what the questionnaire or survey was about, why you were asked to give your opinions, what opinions you gave, and explain how you felt about giving your opinions in this questionnaire or survey. Now, I was explaining to the students that addressing the points on the topic card is not a must. You should say, not you must say. You won't lose marks if you don't address these. And I tell people not to do so, for the reason that if you simply address the points on the card, often you're going to be missing the functions that you have to, do. Express opinion, certainty, probability, doubt, developing an argument, talking about opinions and feelings, etc. So if you just follow the points on the card, the question survey, the questionnaire was about this. That's present, present, present. Why you were asked. That's in the past. What opinions you gave. Explain about how you felt. So if you just stick to those, often you're not going to be showing that range of of functions and of grammar also. Narrative tenses or passives, conditionals, modals. If you stick to the topic on the card, often you're not going to be expressing what the examiner wants. So this is why I always tell people to try this 5-point thing. Introduce it, and again, I made a podcast and a video about this a while back, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here. You can find the links, etc. But I always advise this, introduction. I'd like to talk about the reason I chose this, blah, 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 into the past. So, let me tell you, I had been working, we were going. So you've shown the past, describe it. Let me tell you some of the details now, then, descriptive adjectives, etc. Opinion, and this is going back to the functional thing about being able to express emotion. Oh, it was fantastic, it was terrible, it was awful, it was really great, the best time ever, I loved it, I hated it. And then to round things off, some future form, possibly with, future simple, conditional sentence. So if I had the chance, if I do this, I will be going, I will give it to my children. Again, there's some examples on my podcasting site and on my blog. So this is just a very general idea of how it might work. But by using this 5-point structure, instead of merely addressing the points on the card, you're more likely, I find, to be including all these functions that you need to be showing them, as well as covering a wider range of grammar. But that's something else which you can also find on another blog and pod, which goes into that in detail more. And there's a strategy for that too. But in general terms, this is why we have to do or include all these things. If we consider part 3 of the speaking, you've got 7 different question types. They may ask you to compare, contrast, speculate, hypothesize, evaluate, etc. Well, so what you have to do there is make sure that you match the function to the to the appropriate question type. So if they ask you an example I always use because it's easy, would you rather see a film on television or at the cinema? So they're inviting you to compare, to contrast. Oh, this is better, this is worse, this is more than, this is less than, etc. And they want you to express your opinions. That, well, I'm not quite sure about that. That could be true. That's possible. Probability or down. Oh, I don't think so. Well, it may be. Attitudes and feelings. Oh, I really love. I really hate. So the reason why I developed or have developed or I teach the strategies which I do for both writing and speaking, and which work as if you check out the testimonials on italki, Verbling, etc. Almost all my students who give themselves enough time, who do as I tell them, get the score that they need, because it's not rocket science. It's not a mystery. The British Council and University of Cambridge, they put all this stuff on their website on purpose so we can see it, so we can understand how it works and what you need to basically do. So this is the reason, or these are the reasons why the essay and the speaking requires you to do certain things. So with any examination, as I've said a trillion, billion, million times, it's not just about knowledge of subject, it's also how well do you understand the examination. For example, the Chinese student I mentioned just a couple of hours ago, when I showed her all of this shit, she had no idea. Oh, I've never heard of it. I didn't know this. I haven't seen this. I didn't know this. I didn't know that. And when I explained it, it all made perfect sense. Again, with the Polish lady I was speaking to yesterday, I think, we've spoken about this stuff before, but when I pulled out the table and I said, well, look, you know, the reason why you have to do this to get a particular score is because of this. This is how it's broken down. This is what they want in terms of function, in terms of vocab, in terms of the vocabulary. This is what they basically want. So, you know, the better that you understand how the test works, the better your score will be, and that's a fact. You know, I cannot stress this enough. Well, maybe I could if I were, you must learn this, you bastards. But anyway, that aside, so I hope this is in some way explained a little bit as to why the IELTS test is as it is. It's because to, you know, get particular scores, your ability needs to be at a certain point. And the competency, the descriptors, what you have to do, write, show, present, etc. to get such a score, it tabs out at the CEFR. What does that mean? I can do this, I can do that. What does that break down into? Well, it breaks down into this. Okay, so to get the score that you are looking for, 100 plus for TOEFL, 7 plus for the IELTS, you basically have to not only be accurate in terms of grammar, etc., but you have to show all these different things in terms of grammar, in terms of functions, in terms of topics, in terms of vocab, etc. So using the strategies which I espouse for both writing for the essay, the structure, sentence by sentence, a clear opinion, sentence 1 do this, sentence 2 do that. Again, you can find all this stuff on my blog and site. So the writing strategy is designed purposely to make sure that you cover all these things that you have to show them in order to get a particular score. The same as why the strategy that I espouse for speaking also includes all these different things, because you have to, again, show certain grammar, vocab functions, etc. to get a particular score. So I hope that explains things a little. So I'm going to post everything, put links to everything, interconnect everything on, so this video is going on YouTube, this podcast is going on kevsenglishpodcast.com, and I'll put this on my blog site, prepareielts.com also. I'm not going to write a transcript because I can't be asked, and it will take quite a long time. So what I'll just do, I'll put the links to different things if I remember what I've mentioned. And if anybody's got any questions, you can contact me. My email address is kevin@prepareielts.com. I'll put that on the sites, the various sites too. So if you've got any questions about how all this works, I mean, this is rather complicated. It's a rather long, but it's something that I wanted to talk about. I hope I've made it clear. If not, if you have any questions, send me a mail and I will do my best to answer. Right, that's it. Thanks for listening, watching. If anybody did listen or watch, maybe not. I'll see you later.